Hello and welcome to the Pickwatch podcast. I am Casey Joyner, the football scientist. You may remember me from my 14-year stint with ESPN where I covered the NFL and fantasy football. I am now on the independent path via my site, CaseyJoyner.com, and I'm also making a weekly set of pick'em selections for the Pickwatch crew. My Week 2 selections went 15-1, which is a 93.8% win rate that ranked tied for the second highest in that week. For the season, my picks are 25-7 for a 78.1% win rate that ranks tied for fifth highest among the 100-plus analysts tracked by Pickwatch. Here are my Week 3 picks. Each section details which team is predicted to win and provides a quick summary of why that selection was made. The picks also contain a confidence level for each selection based on a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being the most confident and 1 being the least confident. Now let's get on to the picks. Let's start with the Thursday night game of Miami at Jacksonville. The Dolphins have played above their talent level and have kept games close this season, but the numbers don't lie. Miami has allowed an abysmal 10.6 yards per pass attempt this year, a mark that easily ranks last in the league. It's not a good place to be against an improved Jacksonville passing attack, as Gardner Minshew ranks tied for second in the league in TD passes and is 7th in passer rating. Combine that with this being a short week road contest for Miami, and it leans this pick in Jacksonville's direction with a confidence level of 4. Next up is Houston at Pittsburgh. Deshaun Watson is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league, but he ranks 21st in passer rating and 24th in total QBR, in large part because of the Texans' terrible pass blocking. Per Pro Football Reference, Houston has the 4th highest pass pressure rate allowed this year. It rates last in quarterback hits, and the Texans rank next to last in quarterback pressures. That trend will not get better versus a blitz-happy Pittsburgh defense that ranks first in the league with an astounding 42.6% pass pressure rate. Throw in a number of other factors favoring Pittsburgh, and this ends up as one of the most confident picks of Week 3 with a confidence level of 8. Imagine if you could get 100-1 odds on one of the highest confidence level picks of the week. You'd have to be crazy not to take those odds, right? Well, that's exactly what you can get in the DraftKings Sportsbook's introductory 100-1 odds promotion. Just click on the link below to sign up, make a minimum $5 deposit, pick which Week 3 game you want to apply the 100-1 odds to, and if you pick the winning team, you could turn a $1 wager into $100. This should be an interesting matchup. Cincinnati at Philadelphia. The Eagles' offensive line had a ton of pass blocking issues versus the powerhouse Washington defensive line in Week 1, but don't forget that Philadelphia did not allow a sack versus the Rams in Week 2 and shut Aaron Donald down to the tune of 1 quarterback hit and 1 tackle all game long. The Eagles also did a tremendous job of run blocking against the Rams, and Miles Sanders has shown rare skill in reading defensive fronts and adjusting to his blockers. This should mean a ton of ground yards against the Bengals defense that ranks last in running back rush yards allowed this year and should vault the Eagles to their first victory of the season with a confidence level of 5. Now let's look at San Francisco at the New York Giants. An old but effective adage is that it is never good to rely on a one-dimensional team. Keep that in mind when noting that the Giants are by far the worst rushing team in the league this year, as they have gained only 104 ground yards in their first 2 contests. Some of that was due to facing Pittsburgh in Week 1, and some of it's due to losing Saquon Barkley to a season-ending injury in the first half of last week's game against the Bears, but a lot of it has to do with the sorry state of the New York offense. San Francisco lost some defensive firepower last week with injuries, but the 49ers defense is still more than capable of dominating the Giants, and that gives this pick to San Francisco with a confidence level of 6. This will be one of the most interesting games in Week 3, Las Vegas at New England. After Week 1, the football world had yet to fully comprehend how much progress John Gruden's Raiders had made, as only 10% of pick'em selectors chose Las Vegas over New Orleans. That trend will certainly change this week following the upset, and with the Raiders facing a New England defense that allowed 5 touchdown passes to Seattle last week. Having said this, the Las Vegas offense isn't as powerful as the Seahawks, and New England's defense won't make the same errors it did versus Seattle. Add this to the Raiders having the second highest air miles total in Week 3, and it moves this selection into the Patriots column, although only with a confidence level of 3. Next up is a game that probably isn't what we thought it was going to be coming into the season. Tennessee at Minnesota. Mike Zimmer must be losing a ton of sleep right now. He is one of the best defensive coaches in the league, and yet his defense ranks next to last in points allowed, 29th in yards allowed, and tied for 23rd in yards per play. The Titans are showing last year was not a fluke, in part by having a highly efficient offense that has yet to post a turnover and ranks 8th in offensive expected points allowed. Efficiency does travel well, and that gives Tennessee this pick, but being on the road and the potential for Minnesota to come back and play to its talent level keeps this pick close to the toss-up category with a confidence level of 2. Next up is a game that will try your patience if you're an NFL fan, Washington at Cleveland. This could end up as the ugliest game of Week 3, as these two teams are the lowest scoring clubs in the NFL after Week 2. The problem for Washington is outside of Terry McLaurin and maybe Antonio Gibson, their offense really doesn't have any playmakers to speak of. By contrast, Cleveland may have the best 1-2 running back combination in the league in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They also have OBJ and Jarvis Landry and could see some impact in the passing game if Austin Hooper finally steps up. That talent disparity means more path to victory for Cleveland and lands this pick in their column, but only with a confidence level of 3. Next up is one of the must-see games in Week 3, the Los Angeles Rams at Buffalo. This won't be the marquee game of the week due to the presence of the Dallas, Seattle, and Kansas City, Baltimore matchups, but this could be the most entertaining battle in Week 3. The Rams may have found their breakaway back in Darrell Henderson and could have the best wide receiver trio in the league. On the other hand, the Bills have Josh Allen, who is on pace to throw for more than 5,000 yards this season. Both the Rams and the Bills' defenses haven't played quite as well as expected so far this year, so this one falls to the tiebreaker of Los Angeles traveling over 2,200 air miles for the second straight cross-country matchup. That lands this matchup at Buffalo's favor by the slightest of margins with a confidence level of 1. What to make of these two teams, Chicago at Atlanta? According to Elias Sports Bureau, last week Atlanta was the first team to score 39 points and give up 0 turnovers and still lose the game. The reason the Falcons lost is they had the worst defense in the NFL, ranking last in points allowed and next to last in yards allowed, yards per play, and passing yards. Chicago's frankly lucky to be 2-0 right now, but the defense has allowed only 36 points and Mitchell Trubisky is finally playing at a reasonable level. Combine that performance level with Atlanta's awful defense and the Bears are the pick, but only with a 2 confidence level. Now let's take a look at Carolina at the Los Angeles Chargers. Carolina has actually seen a number of things go right this year, but they're also seeing far too many things go wrong. Per Pro Football Reference, the Panthers have a miserable 4.6% pass pressure rate on defense, a pace that is easily the worst in the league. Carolina has also allowed 6 rushing touchdowns, another pace that ranks last. Those factors alone might be enough to pick against the Panthers, but when the injury to Christian McCaffrey and a 2,000-plus mile road trip factor is added to the equation, it becomes an easy selection for the Chargers with a confidence level of 7. Up next is the New York Jets at Indianapolis. The Jets aren't playing anywhere near as badly as is generally thought, as Gangren's defense has middle-of-the-road pass defense metrics and ranks 7th in pass pressure rate per Pro Football Reference. The problem for New York is their offense ranks last in points and tied for last in yards per play. Those latter facts are a very bad trend when noting that the Colts defense rates first in yards per play and net yards per attempt. Being on the road won't help matters for the Jets either, so this one rates for the Colts in one of the most confident games of the week with a confidence level of 7. Next up is marquee game number 1 of Week 3, Dallas at Seattle. Ask football coaches about high-scoring shootout games and they will tell you that those contests tend to be 50-50 propositions. It's something to keep in mind for this matchup as Seattle just got done posting 5 touchdown passes on a Bill Belichick defense, and the Cowboys racked up 40 points in 3 quarters against Atlanta. Both of these defenses have as many misses as hits this season, especially in pass coverage, so Seattle ends up getting this pick due to the home field tiebreaker, but only with a confidence level of 2. This is one of the more interesting matchups of the week, Tampa Bay at Denver. As much as Tom Brady and the Buccaneers offense has struggled this year, he is still the type of quarterback capable of tearing a defense apart under the right conditions. This matchup almost certainly qualifies as the right conditions, as Mike Evans showed he is fully healthy last week, Chris Godwin is slated to return to the lineup, and Denver will be missing its top pass rusher and best cornerback. The factor of playing in the high altitude and mile high does lower the confidence level a bit, but Tampa still ends up with a 5 in that category. This could be one of the mismatches in Week 3, Detroit at Arizona. Coming into the season, Arizona needed to prove that it was capable of effectively dealing with a power-based team. The Cardinals did that in Week 1 by defeating the 49ers, and they show this again in Week 2 by putting up 438 offensive yards against a tough Washington defensive line that posted 8 sacks in Week 1. Detroit coach Pat Matricia would like the Lions to be a power-based team, but he can't ever seem to get the silver and blue to play that type of football. This makes Arizona very well suited to beat Detroit at its game, and there is a good chance that this contest ends up looking like the Lions' 42-21 loss at Green Bay last week, so Arizona gets this pick with a confidence level of 8. How great would it be if he could get 100-1 odds on a red-hot Arizona team facing a Lions club that looks like it is about to implode? It might sound too good to be true, but it actually isn't for those who take part in DraftKings Sportsbook's amazing introductory 100-1 odds promotion. Just click on the link below to sign up, make a minimum $5 deposit, Pick which Week 3 team you want to apply the 100-to-1 odds to, and if you pick the winning team, you can turn a $1 wager into $100. This could be one of the early season-defining games for these teams. Green Bay at New Orleans. It's been clear for a couple years now that the Saints do not want to operate a pass-happy offense. That may seem like an odd thing to say given the presence of Drew Brees, but check out some of Brees' numbers this year. He ranks 21st in completion rate, tied for 21st in yards per attempt, and 16th in passer rating. Some of that's due to not having Michael Thomas, and some of it's due to having by far the lowest air yards per attempt total in the league. But the reality is, some of it's due to Brees not being quite the player he was a couple of years ago. Combine that with the Saints facing a dominant Green Bay offensive line that could control this game the same way the Raiders O-line controlled the Monday night contest, and he equals a fairly strong Green Bay pick with a confidence level of 6. Next up is marquee matchup number 2 of Week 3, and actually one can make the argument that this is the best matchup of Week 3, the Monday night contest of Kansas City at Baltimore. This Battle of the Titans brings back memories of Monday Night Football's iconic days with Howard and Frank and Don and Al and Dan. These are the two best teams in the league talent-wise, yet last week showed that the Chiefs have some weaknesses to deal with. Their run-heavy approach has also led to Kansas City ranking 29th in air yards per attempt per Pro Football Reference. The Chiefs have also allowed the 5th most rushing yards to opposing running backs and rate 27th in yards allowed per pass attempt. Baltimore hasn't shown any such weakness on offense or defense, and the Ravens are at home, so this one goes to Baltimore with a solid confidence level of 4.